In the very beginning, there was no such thing as a wonky donkey. And honestly, that is kind of a shame, because the world would have been a much better place if there had been. The thing is, donkeys are normally born perfectly straight, just like every other species on this planet. But sometimes, just sometimes, they get zapped by lightning when they're still little foals and turn into wonky donkeys. And if that happens to you, your life will never be the same again. Now, if you've ever been zapped by lightning, you'll know that it's not exactly a walk in the park, so it's best to avoid it entirely, which is why I advise you not to do what Barry did back when he was a little baby donkey. Because Barry was no ordinary donkey. Oh no. Barry was an adventurous donkey who lived up in the clouds. But then one day he got bored of living in the clouds. And that's the worst thing a donkey can possibly do. Because as soon as you get bored of living in the clouds, your life completely falls apart. You lose all your friends, your family rejects you, your house gets demolished, and you become the laughing stock of every single person you've ever met. That's why it was so important for Barry to keep living in the clouds. But alas, his adventurous spirit got the better of him, and he decided to throw caution to the wind and run across the sky. It was at that moment that a bolt of lightning struck him right in the head and sent him plummeting all the way down to earth. It was quite a fall, but fortunately for Barry, he landed in a pile of hay where he was immediately found by a farmer, who was so impressed by Barry's crazy shape that he said, "Good heavens, you're the most wonkiest donkey I've ever seen in my entire life, and also, you're now officially my donkey." And so Barry started his new life as the wonkiest donkey in the world, which was actually quite hard because he couldn't fit through most doors, and every time he tried to jump over a fence he ended up stuck. Halfway up the air like some sort of wonky flying donkey, Barry was sad. He missed his old life up in the clouds. He missed his friends. And most of all, he wished he could be an ordinary donkey once again. That's why he decided to go on an epic quest to find the legendary woolly mammoth, whose tears were said to have magical healing powers. It didn't take long for Barry to leave the farm and enter the big wide world, because thanks to his wonky shape, he wasn't exactly welcome there. In fact, most of the townspeople wanted to run him out of town, but Barry was determined to prove them wrong. And so he marched right past them without even breaking stride, and entered the nearby forest, where he immediately got lost. To make things worse, he had absolutely no idea which direction the woolly mammoth lived in. So he sat down on a nearby log to think of a plan. But before he could come up with anything, he heard a voice behind him say, "Well, well, well, what have we here? A lost donkey who's as wonky as me." Barry turned around to see the most peculiar creature he had ever laid eyes on. It was a blue squirrel with a monocle. Hi," said Barry. "I'm looking for the woolly mammoth. Do you know which way I should go?" The blue squirrel sipped his tea. "Woolly mammoth, you say? Well, I happen to know a thing or two about him. In fact, he lives at the end of that path over there." He pointed his paw towards a dark and gloomy tunnel that looked like it had unseen a lick of sunlight in centuries. Barry was about to thank the squirrel for his help when he realized something. "Wait a minute, you're the lost and found monster, aren't you?" he asked. The blue squirrel took off his monocle and wiped his paws on a napkin. "Guilty as charged," he said. "But don't worry, I'm not going to eat you." He picked up his monocle again. "Only collect lost things, not eat them." "Oh, okay," said Barry, although he was definitely a little bit worried that the lost and found monster would change his mind. As Barry approached the dark tunnel, he suddenly had second thoughts. Was he really ready to meet the woolly mammoth? Would he be able to handle the truth? At that moment, the lost and found monster placed a comforting paw on Barry's shoulder. "What's the matter, young donkey?" he asked. "Don't you want to find your lost item?" "Actually," said Barry, "I've changed my mind. I don't want to find my lost item. I want to be a wonky donkey forever." The lost and found monster looked at Barry with confusion. "But why would you want that?" he asked. "Being lost is no fun at all. Look at me. I haven't left this cave in decades." Barry considered this for a moment. "Well, the thing is," he said, "I might be lost, but I'm not alone. I have friends who love me for who I am. And honestly, being a wonky donkey isn't all that bad. Sure, I can't jump over fences, but I can skip under them. And yes, people do laugh at me, but at least they're not scared of me anymore." The lost and found monster thought about this for a moment. "Well, that does sound rather nice," he said. Just then, a loud rumble echoed from the end of the tunnel. "Oh dear," said the lost and found monster. "That's the woolly mammoth. And when he starts rumbling, he won't stop until he reaches you." Barry panicked and ran as fast as he could towards the light at the end of the tunnel. And as he ran, he thought to himself, being a wonky donkey isn't all that bad. Wait, what was that noise? Is the woolly mammoth chasing me? Oh, great, I'm gonna die. I never even got to tell him how wonky he was. But then something magical happened. Barry's wonkiness started to fade away, and he felt himself transforming right before his very eyes. The wonky donkey was becoming an ordinary donkey. Barry was so shocked that he didn't notice the woolly mammoth standing right in front of him until it was too late. No, boomed the woolly mammoth. Finally, I can add another notch to my belt. But then Barry opened his mouth and said, actually, I'm not lost. I was just visiting the lost and found monster. And I do need your help to find myself, because I am perfect just the way I am. The woolly mammoth stopped mid-snort. Huh, he said. Well, that's not what I've been told. Everyone tells me I'm too hairy, I'm too clumsy, and that my tusks are way too big. If that's not bad enough, today's also my birthday. Barry felt a wave of sympathy wash over him. Of course he knew what it felt like to be different. In fact, it was something they had in common. Listen, said Barry. Maybe hairy, clumsy, tusky, and very old, but you're also kind, compassionate, and generous. And that's what truly matters. The woolly mammoth thought about this for a moment. I suppose you're right, he said. Being a woolly mammoth isn't all that bad. Being a woolly mammoth is pretty great, actually. And from that day forward, Barry the wonky donkey and the woolly mammoth became best friends and lived happily ever after. Or at least until the next time Barry got bored of living in the clouds. The end. If you enjoyed this story, please be sure to subscribe and check out more content. Thanks for watching.